In this video, I'm going to show you a quick and easy way for brightening up cloudy headlight lenses, like you see here. This vehicle is 16 years old. It's never spent any time indoors, and the sun has taken its toll, especially on the headlight lenses. What the sun does is it starts to break down the surface. So instead of being very smooth, it starts to get microscopically rough, and that's why it's cloudy. But in just a few minutes, with a few simple supplies and a simple tool, you can restore this to nearly new condition. So this procedure is part of a kind of a spruce up I'm doing on the van. It needs a wash. There's some bug splatters on it. There's also some pine gum on it. I use this, I'm going to show you about this later, but I use this hand cleaner, this Swarfega hand cleaner. It does a terrific job at dissolving pine gum without hurting paint. At least it's never hurt the paint on any of my vehicles. I'm going to talk more about that later when we get done. So you'll know what the green stuff is on the hood. It's working away on some of that pine gum now. But right away, I'm going to get out a tool, get out some rubbing compound, and show you just how we can renew these headlight lenses. So they're pretty much as good as new. So take a look at these two bottles. One is called rubbing compound, one is called finishing compound. They're both very, very mild abrasives meant for polishing auto body finishes and giving them a mirror shine. Rubbing compound is slightly coarser. You can't really tell with your fingers, but it is supposed to be slightly coarser. I'm going to go right to the finishing polish for these headlight lenses. They're not really all that cloudy. If they were much cloudier, I would start with this and then finish with this. It's made by the Mothers Company. They make all kinds of buffing products. I'm going to put links in the description box so you know where to buy these, how much they cost, stuff like that. But the compound alone, well, let me just show you here. It's just a kind of a paste. It looks kind of like hand cream. You can't feel any abrasiveness to it on your own, but it is microscopically abrasive, and that's what we want. Now, to buff the surface, I'm going to be using this 6-inch random orbit sander. Now, of course, I'm going to be taking the pad off, but this sander, I've had it for a long, long time. It's done a lot of work for me, mostly sanding wood, but sometimes auto body work as well. And this sander, a corresponding model is available. I mean, this thing is probably getting on to 30 years old. They don't actually make this particular model, but they make one that looks just like it. Check out the description box. And the one that they make also accepts this foam pad. This is key. I mean, you certainly can't use a sanding disc for this, but this is just a foam pad. I'm going to wet it and apply the compound to it, but it just threads in. It's pretty simple, really. Get the wrench in there. It just unscrews. This tool originally came with a very slim wrench that could fit between the pad and the casing, but I lost it, so I had to make this little groove here to accept a regular one. 14mm wrench works really well, and you can just threads in, just like that. So let's go over to the vehicle and start making good things happen. So I'm going to start by just wetting the lens. As soon as you wet it, it looks a lot better, but don't be fooled. It's still just as cloudy. You definitely don't want any dirt here or grit, because that's just going to defeat the purpose completely. And before I put the compound on here, this is a variable speed tool, and I want it at about half speed, the dials here. I could go full blast, but it gets messier than it needs to be, so I have it somewhere between 3 and 4. That should be fast enough. Now also, I'm just going to turn this thing on briefly to teach a little lesson. If I just turn it on with no load, when it's not touching anything, it starts to rotate like crazy. Okay. Now, if that had the finishing polish on it, it would have thrown it all over. It'd be all over me, it'd be all over the camera, it'd be all over the vehicle. So, because it spins quite fast when it's not under load, I always touch it to the surface before I switch it on, and I always shut it off and let it come to rest before I lift it off. I learned that the hard way because everything gets really messy. It's not a big deal, but it's just more to clean off. So this has already been dampened a bit. Give it a little shake. Squirt some on here. I'm going to put some more on later, but this will get me going. So we just put it on and switch on. You see how it's making a kind of a slurry. I can actually give it a little more speed here. So you can't see it, but the finishing polish is knocking off all the microscopic high spots and making the surface smooth again so that it can reflect light cleanly without diffusing it. So it'll be clear, in other words. So you see how I shut that off before I lifted it? Important stuff. Now, this is looking a little watery to me. So without moistening anything further, I'm going to put on some more stuff. We're just going to keep at it. I'm going to do this for 3, 4, 5 minutes maybe, and then we're going to rinse it and see how we're doing. You don't have to apply a ton of pressure here. If I apply too much pressure, I'm going to be squeezing this pad down. And I know from past experience it can cause it to break here prematurely. So just moderate pressure and a little bit of time. So the question is, have I done this enough? And the answer is, I don't know. You can't really tell until you rinse it off. So let's just get some water on it now. It certainly looks a lot better, but don't be fooled. The real test is when it's dry. So you take a look at this one here, then let's go and take a look at the other one there. It's got a bit of water spotting on it, but that's kind of the way it was. So I decided to give it another polishing session. I think it might make it just a bit better. Now it's time to rinse. I'm not worried about the stray compound on the body just yet. And actually, it doesn't hurt the paint if you overlap a bit. It's a great thing for cleaning and removing oxidization on paint. So it can spruce up your whole vehicle too, but we're just focusing on the headlight lens today. I find that waxing the lenses helps to keep them looking nice longer. This is just some regular high quality automotive wax. Just rub some on, let it dry, and then buff it off, and we're done. So I've let the wax dry for 10 or 15 minutes or so, just buffing it off as normal, and should be done. After about 5 minutes of total buffing time, you can see the difference. You can see the results here. The one on your right is quite clear, completely acceptable, and that other one's still cloudy. So makes quite a difference, hardly takes any time. Now, as I said earlier on, I'm going to show you how I use this hand cleaner to take off pine gum that's dripped on. I've already removed a lot of it that was here, but there are a couple more blobs. So just put a little on your finger and then just daub it on and leave it there. And in about 15 minutes, I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you. You just basically wash it off with water. Maybe a little bit of scrubbing with a soft bristled brush, but hardly anything. The paint's not damaged, and you get rid of the pine gum. So about 20 minutes have passed. I've let the hand cleaner sit on those little blobs of pine gum, and if you scratch them, just rub them with your fingers. Sometimes you can feel a little bit remaining, but it comes right off. So it's basically completely gone. I'm going to be rinsing this off, of course, but you can see that it's gotten it all off. There's a little bit here. Can you hear it? But it's also gone. There you go. Just a couple of little tricks for keeping the old vehicles looking great.